Hey, everybody! I have a special guest again today. His name is Golden Monarch of Golden Monarch News on Substack. How are you doing today, GM?
Good morning, Zach, and thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Oh, of course. A lot of your research into cryptocurrency and its influence on domestic US politics and on geopolitics has really been fascinating. Um, so, just to get us started, I'm wondering if you could tell us what motivated you to launch Golden Monarch News on Substack.
Sure thing. So last year, I created the Substack account known as Golden Monarch News. Um, a few fellows over on Independent Media recommended me to, you know, start writing my own articles to really share with the broader scope of independent media, um, cryptocurrency these past several years. Actually, ever since its inception, 2008. As far as how I got involved, a little mini story. So, I used to be passionate about crypto, invest in crypto as if it was the next big. I used to. Oh, lost connection. I used to invest in crypto as if it was the next best thing, and after seeing how 2021 and 2022 play out, it was very clear to me that it was a Ponzi scheme from the get go. That
Mm.
the average investor was never in control of their own investments. That much like the stock market, um, cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, was always in the hands of very powerful, wealthy billionaires, whales, those within the financial institutions, Wall Street. And after the 2022 FTX collapse of FTX, we saw how cryptocurrency, was reported very negatively. It seemed like the industry was in shambles. And then all of a sudden in 2023, you see this complete 180 turn where you had politicians like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and whatnot. They were starting to regurgitate all this Bitcoin propaganda. And then soon before you knew it, you got BlackRock involved, and then Coinbase involved, MicroStrategy involved. And it really started to I really started to beg the question, is this just one big, massive, Ponzi scheme that has been well crafted ever since its inception? And have investors and all people are we still being deceived by our very own government, by our very own system, that crypto is supposed to be revolutionary, that crypto is supposed to be freedom? I don't think so. So
Mm.
that's how I got started. And I'm all about, exposing the truth and exposing and calling out all the fraudulent billionaires, gatekeepers, and anyone or anybody who is even thinking that, crypto is a good thing,
Mm. Well, let me ask you, how is it a bad thing, or what direction do you see it going in that is so negative? Is it just the fact that the common people are going to be scammed out of their money in a Ponzi scheme, or is there something more kind of nefarious, like long-term social engineering involved?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think, Zach, that this is part of the whole New World Order agenda. This is part of something much, much bigger where you see Western societies going from cash based to cashless,
Mm.
where perhaps in the past it was much harder for Western banks, financial institutions, and the government, of course, to keep track of where was all this money going throughout the world.
Mm.
You see, the dollar, the fiat. We all know that the petrodollar is corrupt. It's losing its value, of course, but it's not losing its value because of its of the dollar itself, but it's rather it's mishandling by the Federal Reserve, by the federal government of constantly printing out money time and time again for wars, projects, destabilization of countries like Gaza, Palestine, brother, Venezuela, Latin America, even Africa. I believe that the long-term goal of crypto is tokenization. Tokenization meaning where every asset, even your water, your oil, your whole share, is going to be tokenized. It's going to become digitized. So a value is going to be set on natural products, but also products where, in the traditional sense, a stock, right? A stock is based on how the business does. They report their revenues. They generate, income. Sometimes they take a hit loss. These things are recorded. They are reported. But with crypto, due to the way its algorithm is programmed, it is very hard to tell 100% where exactly is the money coming from and by whom. And though we have a hunch that most of the nefarious trading of cryptocurrency through countries like Israel, through Ukraine, heck, even through El Salvador, is being conducted by those in the West. I think crypto is essentially the next transition from, say, crypto, Bitcoin, to CBDC, which means central banking digital currency. And what's interesting about that, Zach, is that in the past several years, that term has been thrown around so much, even among crypto spheres. Crypto bros and gals always regurgitating, CBDC is bad, and it is bad. But the irony of that is that the very thing that they're still advocating for, which is Bitcoin, which is crypto, the very thing they're advocating for is the very thing that will take them for CBDC to become existent, to be launched, to, essentially all their assets, it won't necessarily be in their hands. And even if, like, say, you store your crypto in, say, a cold wallet, hardware device, or you have your own KYCs, which stands for know your customers. If the government ever wanted to, which I'm sure they will, I'm sure they'll confront manufacturers of these cold wallets, of these exchanges, to, cooperate, abide by the laws of what the government wants. And, there's no telling just what the long-term impacts are if crypto is safe. Is safe in these cold wallets. I mean, I like to think they are safe, but I don't want to raise too much hopes that it's completely safe, foolproof. I think there's definitely a backdoor to cracking those codes down. And who has it? Well, my hunch tells me that the deep state have it. The deep state who have, prior to Bitcoin, through cyberpunks, the NSA, National Security Agency, they have, crafted all these nefarious projects, including the concepts of taking cash from physical to going electrical, hence electrical cash. Testing those projects out, which, some prevailed, others never really reached its full potential. But out of those projects, it seems like Bitcoin is the one that to this day has still stood strong, because it has generated enough curiosity within the public, among its earliest investors, and most certainly among banks, financial institutions, those with elaborate insider trading, people who know the ins and outs of what our government's up to, who have the knowledge to know that all this like propaganda of Bitcoin and crypto, this has been planned as far back as 2008. This isn't anything new. Bitcoin and crypto was not co-opted. this has always been what it's been intended for. It was always meant to carry out the will of the oligarchy, which is digital control, digital ID, digital assets, control. It's all about control, control, control.
All right. Well, I want to dig a little bit deeper into this, the digital mechanisms of control. Bitcoin seems, or at least it's marketed as, being designed against such controls even possibly being imposed, and yet you see it as turning a 180 and allowing for the introduction of central bank digital currencies. I'm curious how you see that playing out. Is it the fact that Bitcoin is now so expensive that it's so far beyond the reach of the typical person that they have the fear of missing out on digital assets in general, so they're more likely now to accept a central bank digital currency? Or how do you see that playing out?
Well, yes, for one, the the price of Bitcoin right now, but really, what price can you make of Bitcoin? I mean, it's derived out of blockchain technology. Its value is based on what the person who bought the Bitcoin at its value thinks it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can I put this? It's speculative, and despite its white paper, there's a white paper out there about the peer-to-peer,
Mm-hmm.
and how like it's it's supposed to like be independent of banks, of centralized power. Bitcoin still uses tremendous amounts of energy, be it electricity. I mean, the fact that we still have the internet for who knows how many years. I mean, the origins of the internet stems back to the ARPANET. Stems back to, the internet is a public tool, but just because it's public, it doesn't mean that there aren't some private eyes that are always, skimming through the internet and seeing what's trending.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of propaganda can they spill? So I feel like with Bitcoin, yeah, on one hand, its volatility, how its price, it's constantly moving up and down, which in part it's based on two factors. So the first is its own algorithm programmed called the halving. The halving is where every 4 years, the reward for mining Bitcoin cuts in half.
Mm-hmm.
And as the years progress, less Bitcoin is getting mined, is getting generated, is getting produced.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow the inventors rather, of Bitcoin, quote unquote Satoshi Nakamoto, crafted a means of making his algorithm, his Bitcoin, long lasting.
Mm-hmm.
So that nobody can just suddenly, I'm going to buy 21 millions worth of Bitcoin right off its inception. No. It's like he put like several like levels to reach this amount of Bitcoin. You have to generate even more energy. You have to solve even more complex computer programs. And for the record, Zach, I'm not a computer programmer. I'm not like a computer whiz, but I at least understand, in part, due to the regurgitating propaganda that's still to this day being spilled out by crypto gatekeepers, those who constantly repeat to your face, Bitcoin to the moon. We are so early. Hold on for dear life. That kind of rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to regurgitate is that these people are not paying attention to how can I describe it? They're not paying attention to the long-term consequences of this rhetoric. As perhaps interesting as Bitcoin once was, according to Julian Assange, it's very clear that its complex algorithm program is designed in a way that encourages pumps and dumps. It encourages you to buy and buy and buy. And essentially, it's asking people to place their faith and trust into a program of which to this day, we still don't know 100% who or what Satoshi Nakamoto is. Of course, I have written a few articles on Substack that, lays out possibilities of several individuals. Someone like Hal Finney.
Mhm.
Heck, maybe even it's not just Hal Finney, but it's a bunch of cyberpunks or cyberpunks who are also associated with the NSA, the CIA, Deep State. I mean, I don't think one person right off their bat could have developed such a fascinating yet also dangerous program that anybody can participate in. And of course, the longer you participate in the whole Bitcoin trope, yeah, but it looks like Bitcoin becomes even more and more expensive. It becomes more and more worth. But in doing so, it's given a window for elitists to essentially overbuy amounts of Bitcoin. And then over the years, especially now, have the power, if you will, to at the very least influence via pumps and dumps Bitcoin's value. Now, while elites haven't broadly spoken about, oh, we're gonna find a way to like crack down on Bitcoin's algorithm. I mean, even if elites did find a way to do that, I have a feeling they don't want to do that. Because if they were to do that, then Bitcoin's value would lose over time. If, like, say, for example, if the Dark Lord of Bitcoin Zionist himself, Larry Fink of BlackRock,
Yeah.
he hypothesizes that, oh, maybe we can increase the threshold of 21 million.
I
don't
heard
see
that.
how he would. I don't see how he would, but I'm sure he has enough money and enough of influence, given how much of a Zionist he is. Maybe BlackRock, maybe someone closely associated with BlackRock would be able to do things, bidding, and maybe, just maybe, there is a backdoor to cracking down Bitcoin's algorithm. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just a bunch of codes, zeros and ones and zeros.
Sure. And you just need to get the
And ever
miners
since
to
Bitcoin's
accept the
inception,
new protocol. You just need the miners to agree, like, yeah, we're going to institute this fork to increase the total supply.
exactly. And since we're talking about Larry Fink for a brief moment, I mean, I know there's a lot we could talk about, but real briefly on Larry Fink. I mean, my God, to this day, BlackRock, the largest financial institution in the world, what is it saying? Oh yeah, BlackRock controls everything. They control the world. They control your social change behavior, as like Larry Fink calls it. They control what to think, what to say. They control, what's good for America, so to speak, what's good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since Larry Fink and BlackRock pushed hard on the whole crypto ETFs, which is just yet again just another layer of keeping Bitcoin, keeping blockchain relevant, so that it can serve their end, which is to obviously tokenize everything: your home, your water, electricity.
Jeez, scary stuff. It
And
reminds.
these are the people that we.
Yes.
Yeah, very scary stuff. I mean, are these the type of individuals we want to be running our country? Are these the type of individuals who we want to continue to like essentially, make him wealthier by us continuing to participate in the Bitcoin propaganda? I mean, I don't think a lot of investors, especially crypto borrows and gus, have really taken serious consideration into asking themselves that. I don't think they care. I think they're just doing it for the money by whatever means they can to stay relevant. I mean, that's why you have so many, really unserious crypto fanatics on Twitter, on YouTube, even in the Davos, the Economic Forum, your fellow politicians. All of them are acting like I don't know, like bees. They're acting like they're part of a colony, and they're just repeating the same talking points over and over and over again. I mean, Jesus, is there any critical thinking left? Like,
well, that is curious because of the articles that you've written, I've noticed some U.S. politicians cropping up who seemed like they were previously rather anti-Bitcoin. Thinking of Elizabeth Warren, if I'm correct, she kind of reversed her position on cryptocurrencies. Is that right?
Yes, and Warren, look, I've always had suspicion that when Warren comes out and says things against crypto, against Bitcoin, I've always had a suspicion that she was gaslighting, that she was just playing a script to be the supposed opposition to the crypto industry. Look, Elizabeth Warren, she's a snake because, not only because of crypto, but because she has backpedaled on decisions from her positions on war, Medicare for all. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, she is beholden to the banks. She is beholden to her donors. There's no doubt in my mind, Zach, that Elizabeth Warren is as very much pro-crypto as, say, Donald Trump, as, say, Senator Cynthia Lummis. Because she is on the Democrat side, the so-called liberal side, I'm going to look after the working class, I'm going to look after you. Look, Elizabeth Warren is just pulling a stunt. She's not who she says she is. And it's funny how so many YouTube users and Twitter users on crypto fanatics were constantly like smearing Warren as an anti-crypto type of individual. But that's the thing. These people bought in so deep into this whole propaganda that they don't realize that Warren, like any other politician, they're deceiving you. They're trying to make citizens fight amongst one another instead of punching up towards the oligarchy, against the oligarchy, punching up against the politicians. As a matter of fact, a while ago, Warren had signed some sort of paper thanking Satoshi Nakamoto. How about that?
Interesting.
What's up with that? And
yeah, it definitely has the whiff of controlled opposition. I mean, if she's been such a critic before, why would she be praising the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin?
Exactly. And it's not just Warren, but it's all the politicians, all the financial institutions. What is that? What is that? Like they have like a script, they have like an agenda to fulfill. So of course they know what Bitcoin is. They know what Satoshi Nakamoto. They know who he is or was or what is. They know all this stuff. They have the insider trading, much like in the stock market. They have agendas to fulfill. Play controlled opposition on both ends. Besides Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, who has time and time again been seen alongside Cynthia Loomis. She's also pro crypto, pro Bitcoin. Or how about Ro Khanna? Oh, Ro Khanna, yeah, that progressive, that guy who everyone thought, oh yeah, Ro Khanna's going to stand up to the Republicans. Ro Khanna's going to challenge his fellow Democrat Party, but no, that mofo is from Silicon Valley. He's in it too. All these politicians are in it. They're beholden to their donors.
Well, that's something
The crypto industry.
Probe here. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, real quick. So yeah, the crypto industry. They're a fairly new industry. What, like about maybe 10 plus years? Why? How is it that $1 trillion industry has managed to influence the U.S. 2024 election from last year? How they managed to influence that so heavily, as much as, say, big oil? They're a fairly new industry that spawned out of nowhere. Clearly, there's a lot of money and investments towards the crypto industry, and yet, for some reason, in the United States, we can't seem to get reparations, universal health care, proper infrastructure in this crumbling economy. What's up with that?
Mm-hmm. Well, that leads me to the question that I was going to ask. I was going to ask because from our conversation so far, it was a deep state plot to introduce cryptocurrencies, and now we're talking about private industry being the main driver of the popularity of crypto among politicians. Is there some overlap there, or is it like, well, first it was the deep state, but then so many people were finding it so easy to make money in this new industry that the private citizens kind of took over, the private companies took over as far as being the driving force behind introducing crypto into the general population?
Interesting. So, yeah, I do think it was definitely deep state origin. And then, the way they got about crafting Bitcoin to become a trendy topic was that, okay, instead of just immediately pushing to everyone's faces Bitcoin, what they did was shortly after the 2008 financial crisis, some weird program called Bitcoin was launched out of nowhere. And then as the years followed, the public started to, I think they used to express genuine interest as to what the heck is Bitcoin? What is this,
Mm-hmm.
So, albeit through very hard to find places like the dark web, like Ross Ulbrich's Silk Road, there used to be very limited ways, if you will, to go basically find Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. It was vastly unavailable to the general public, to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was started, no doubt, here in the United States. Because let's think about it for a second. A lot of these advanced technologies, more often than not, they seem to originate here in the United States. From the internet to your cell phone to your computer, your laptop. And I think the long-term goal of the deep state was so that put this mysterious program out there, get public initial feedback to it. So before the elites did anything with Bitcoin, I think they wanted to study the human behavior as to how would people react to Bitcoin. What kind of culture would stem out of the Bitcoin sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, the culture that we have now is very reminiscent of how cyberpunks felt back in the day, where cyberpunks, they were vouching to be completely independent from the government. They wanted to be in charge of their own uh, ways of living, their own income. You could argue that cyberpunks, some of them had like a very libertarian approach to how they saw the world to be run. And as you know, the libertarian mindset is not that far off from the um, the mindset of the Republicans and the Democrats. Libertarians, as you know, they're still dependent on capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they say we want a free market, I think they're getting their terms mixed up because freedom is more often than not mislabeled, misused. It's become like an illusion. And so when it comes back to 2008 and onward, I have no doubt in my mind, Zach, that some of the earliest investors of Bitcoin were cyberpunks, and they knew who or what Satoshi Nakamoto was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason why they have continued to support that whole narrative of Satoshi Nakamoto cannot reveal his identity is because they want to create that mysticism. They want to create that notion, that the idea that because we don't know who the developer of Bitcoin is, that must mean that Bitcoin is truly, truly a decentralized network for anyone, for anything to participate in, and that no such government, no such billionaire can offset the Bitcoin algorithm. But here's the thing, though. What is up with corporate media, financial institutions, and billionaires jumping in? I would say as far back as 2013, like shows like CNBC, Fox Business.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you see these bigger corporate media networks also talking about Bitcoin nonstop. And as you know, corporate media, when they report news to benefit their own oligarchs, their own rich, their own rich, their CEOs, their the families who run everything here. So that whole narrative of corporate media, of billionaires, of politicians initially saying we're against Bitcoin, we're against Bitcoin. I don't believe that was ever what they believed in to begin with. I think they were just following a script.
I see.
They were trying to at first see if they can try to discourage some early investors. Because, as corporate media does, they like to, promote fear, scare tactics. But for those in the Bitcoin network who decides that, no, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to follow what corporate media says. I'm not going to listen to what this billionaire says. Some stayed on, continued to either hold their Bitcoin and or accumulate more Bitcoin. And by the time that, I want to say like by 2017, 2018, by the time that you had more, the expansion of online banking,
Mm-hmm.
you also had the introduction of exchanges. Robinhood, that's one example. That comes to mind. Robinhood, one of the first like exchanges where on your mobile app, on your iPhone, let's say, suddenly users not just in the United States and not just in the UK, in the Western powers, but anyone who has these apps. Now they can start to participate. Now they can start to, explore and buy into the whole Bitcoin crypto network, and they can see how how their assets goes up and down over time. So the more and more that these elites bring forth more customers to get into Bitcoin, the more money that these elites in the long run will generate through the extraction, through the exploitation of pump dump.
I see. And so, how does this pump and dump work? I'm asking, I have in mind, for example, someone like Michael Saylor, who is said many times, never sell, just hold and hold and hold and hold. So, how is he generating
Yes.
cash for himself?
Right. So just before I answer that, real quick. So Michael Saylor, the chaotic Bitcoin Zionist, the biggest loser of 2001, the .com crash. I mean, how the heck has Saylor not been prosecuted for his own scams, if you will? Well, yeah, let me tell you about who Michael Saylor is. So,
please,
he's obviously an American entrepreneur. He's a capitalist. He has bided his time over the years to bring MicroStrategy, his company, back to its former glory. So Michael Saylor, also funny enough, he used to also be against Bitcoin at one point.
Oh,
I think it was 2013. So yeah, even Michael Saylor, one of the world's richest Bitcoin billionaires, was against Bitcoin. And by the time he, of course, flip-flopped, and from 2014 onward, he has been all in on Bitcoin. You have seen how Saylor, first off, he's I have huge suspicion that he is a Zionist. Corporate media doesn't really approach Michael Saylor with questions about, let's say, Israel or about geopolitics. But make no mistake, his company, MicroStrategy, they have massive industry ties to Israel, Tel Aviv,
sure,
to China, to the United States. He's a businessman. He's in it to make money. He will do whatever it takes to stay ahead of the curve. So to explain, how the heck did Michael Saylor go from being a failure to suddenly becoming one of the most asinine billionaires of all time? Is that it's simple. Funny enough, it's really simple. It's idiotic, but it's simple. So Saylor devoted his company to just buy Bitcoin. And buy Bitcoin he did. From 2020 and onward, he continued to buy stacks upon stacks of Bitcoin. In fact, Saylor is actually the first individual before Donald Trump, mind you. He was the first one who said, quote, never sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So right away, he's trying to lure people in. He's trying to, deceive everyone. And yet, for some reason, corporate media, the crypto communities, they're not pushing back against him. Or at least a majority of them have not pushed back. But needless to say, so the truth about Saylor is that his company may be worth billions and billions of money via Bitcoin. But Michael Saylor himself, he's secretly not that rich. The truth is, Saylor is in huge, huge debt. He's in huge debt. And due to the irresponsibilities of the federal government, Saylor has a contract, if you will. He has like a deal with the U.S. federal government where he will continuously take out loans to then buy Bitcoin, which then stimulates Bitcoin to pump even higher.
Mm-hmm.
And as Michael Saylor has continued to do this, he has seen more and more return on his Bitcoin investments, of which his own company, the MicroStrategy, which has a stock, it has seen astronomical, insane gains, much akin to his gains that he made in 2000, only for 2001 with the .com to all come crashing down, burned to the ground. So right now, we're in 2025. Nobody is putting a halt to MicroStrategy's constant borrowing of loans, buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up. And then, again, MicroStrategy needs more money. So they'll go to the federal government, the bank will issue them a loan, and then they'll buy even more Bitcoin. And this cycle keeps going on and on and on. Because Michael Saylor no one has stopped Michael Saylor from doing this. See, that's the thing about capitalism, Capitalism always seems to benefit the rich. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer.
Sadly, yes. And
in order for Michael Saylor to pay his debt, if he ever wants to pay his debt, he has to continue taking on more loans, in which he puts into Bitcoin. Bitcoin keeps going up and down. But the question we need to all ask ourselves is, how realistic can this go on for? Just how realistically is this even possible for? A bubble is growing. Eventually, that bubble has to come crashing out because there's so much volatility involved. There's so much financial wealth that if Michael Saylor ever wanted to, heck, even if any billionaire or any whale invested in crypto ever wanted to, if they ever want to, say, coordinate all together and say, hey, let's sell all our Bitcoin assets on this day, they could just do so, which would then suddenly all the Bitcoin that was purchased would go back into the market, to the Bitcoin network, and then the value of Bitcoin would crash drastically because you have less users, you have less amounts of Bitcoin that has been held. It's been, I guess you could say, put back into the Bitcoin network.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that maybe that's not the best example I made because, as perhaps crypto bros and gals would insist, your Bitcoin, your crypto is not like a stock. It's not like a stock where, if you sell your shares, then somebody else can buy the shares at perhaps a higher rate, at a higher value or a lesser value. Well, no matter which way it is, one thing is clear, Zach, is that this is a money laundering operation that has continued to go on for far too long. It is squeezing the American economy so tight that if the elites, no, not the elites, but if the American people, if citizens think that the elites, the billionaires, have the best intentions in the world with Bitcoin, well, they're in for a very rude awakening.
Oh boy. Well, geez, I hope that they don't coordinate a price crash tomorrow because I gotta wait for my Bitcoin to come out of my vault, my Coinbase vault, that is. Well,
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
this is kind of it,
I mean, let's put it this way.
yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, no, please. Let's put it this way.
Well, let's put it this way. You could be rich one day, and then the very next thing, you could be poor. I mean, that's the name of the game. I mean, it is literally a 24/7 market. There is zero accountability. As far as I'm aware, very few criminals have been prosecuted. I mean, I guess the the best example I could think of is Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh,
But
yes.
the truth of the matter is that SBF, SBF, he was the scapegoat. He was just a scapegoat. He was used by all the billionaires, by the Democrats, by the Republicans, and yeah, sure, Sam Bankman-Fried, of course, is notorious. I'm not implying that he's innocent by any means, but you're telling me that like a 30-year-old junkie can suddenly be among the richest billionaires for a long-term period? Yeah, I don't think so.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that through his own investors like Kevin O'Leary, who I have no doubt he is a Bitcoin Zionist himself. Billionaires like Kevin O'Leary, they want to give these younger generations this illusion that you can become the next millionaire or the next billionaire.
Mhm.
No, Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX scandal, it is not the last scandal we've seen. I am very confident that as we speak, multiple FTX scandals are taking place.
Hmm.
From the likes of BlackRock, MicroStrategy, ironically enough, Coinbase, as we talked about, because Coinbase is a huge partner of the World Economic Forum. It is ironic that because as citizens we do have the option, if we will, to invest in crypto, we also do put ourselves out in the open where, yes, on one hand, you could make some money if you're lucky, but most of the time, somebody else is screwing you in the process. Somebody else is making far more money than you are. And that seems to be the agenda of the majority's crypto influencers, from social media to politicians to heck, even the the president of the United States himself. I mean, it is insane.
Oh man, yeah. His recent meme coin of the past 2 weeks. Um, that's another example of a fellow who had originally described Bitcoin as a scam and became extremely on board. I think it was at the Libertarian National Convention in 2024 that he came out so strongly in favor of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Makes one wonder again.
The Libertarian National Convention.
Yeah, that's my recollection, and it makes one wonder who got to him. That it doesn't seem like libertarians are a big enough political faction in the United States. Although so many people have libertarian philosophical leanings, their political affiliation doesn't seem large enough that that would have been that would have been just a simple calculation on his part to get more votes. It seems more likely that he would be trying to curry favor with the deep state or with BlackRock, I suppose, since they had established the ETFs earlier that year.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So Donald Trump, that guy's all about charisma. He wants to stay relevant. He'll do anything he means to, have all the attention be directed to him. As far as like Bitcoin crypto goes, so yeah, so much like Michael Saylor, Donald Trump was all against Bitcoin. He thought it was a scam, and then suddenly out of nowhere, I think it was like 2023. Yeah, 2023. First, the Trump family, not just Donald Trump, but the whole Trump family, they get involved in um, NFTs, trading cards. I mean, it was just like it was out of nowhere. I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm sure everyone had like WTF, but yeah, I mean, look, none of what the president has said about Bitcoin, heck, none of the politicians, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Trump, none of what they've said about Bitcoin crypto has been organic, has not been genuine.
Mm.
I'm well convinced that they are just repeating a regurgitating talking point pushed by deep state, which then, by extension, the crypto industry is also coordinating, working together with the federal government so that they can install a cashless society. They want more and more people to get into cryptocurrency because it'll be far easier for all the elites, including Trump himself, to make money off of exploiting investors, his own people. I mean, how can I put it this way? You got like a culmination of three things that make up Trump. You got the MAGA base, of course, make America great again. You got all the Elon Musk stands, Tesla and whatnot, SpaceX, and then you got the Bitcoin bros. Well, as like Lucy put it, by the way, shout out to Lucy. Yeah, all these three entities, they're all working together, all like part of the same club. And for the president of the United States to be like launching his own meme coin, I mean, it is just pure insanity. I mean, last year, people got viral over the Haktua meme coin.
Yeah.
In which even, the crypto YouTube, the CoffeeZilla, even he called it out. He was like, this is complete bullshit. And, not to give Haley Welch any more attention, but yeah, like how the heck did someone like her, an irrelevant 20 or 21-year-old, go from being a meme to suddenly launching her own podcast to then suddenly launching a crypto meme coin, which is based off of the Solana blockchain? I mean, look, the behavior, the behavior, the propaganda from these elitists, Trump, Saylor, Larry Fink, they are leading the younger generations astray. They are trying to normalize the notion that cryptocurrency is good, that doing money laundering is legal, it's a good thing. We will, if you get caught, don't worry, we will pardon you, or we will back you up. But no. I mean, here's the even funny part, Zach. So when that meme coin of Trump's launched, it happened at the evening when all the elites got together. They threw this, what is it, like a crypto ball party. I mean, you had like so many faces, from like Snoop Dogg to Michael Saylor himself to freaking Natalie Brunell with her Fix the Money dress. I mean, just like, it was beyond cringe. It was just like these people, they're laughing at us. These people are like, they think like, oh, we're ahead of the game. We're better than you, type of thing. Like, no, not only fuck the tax the rich dress, but fuck the tax fix the money dress. I mean, it's just the deeply unserious undertones of these elites who think that what they're doing, what they're promoting, is a good thing. I mean, no. I mean, all these people, they're just the only reason they're still pushing Bitcoin is because they want to remain relevant within the social media sphere. They want to follow the money. They want to, please their quote unquote daddy Trump, or in this say, I guess I'll make this up, but they want to please their grandpa Sailor since he does, he just turned 60 today.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know if you knew, but yeah, today as we speak, it is Michael Saylor's freaking birthday, and all the crypto fanatics are going bananas over him. I mean, I thought that Natalie Brunell's wedding cake, the Bitcoin wedding cake, was cringe, but so was Sailor's posted. He posted like an AI image of himself and a Bitcoin cake. I mean, this does not scream let them eat cake. I mean,
wow.
it is insulting to the ground. I mean,
Yeah, I can see that. Jeez. Ah, man. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to dial back a little bit. Or you've said a few times in this interview, you've made reference to Zionist Bitcoin, or you've referred to people as being Bitcoin Zionists. Could you unpack that term for me a little bit? Like I'm getting the sense, perhaps, that this wasn't just an American deep state operation. That perhaps you mean to implicate Mossad or other elements of the Israeli government in the creation or adoption of Bitcoin.
yes. So earlier last month, I wrote an article about how Bitcoin became Zionist Bitcoin. It's funny you ask that because that article, I wanted to really, really like expand what the heck did I mean when I said Bitcoin has become Zionist Bitcoin. It was my first ever article that I wrote last year, but I didn't really elaborate. It was sort of like it was my first post. It was like a pseudo rant. So with this new article, revamped article that I wrote, yes, I explored how how was Israel formed, which is back in the late 1950s, 1948, 1947, if you will. How was the CIA formed, the NSA formed? And I take you through how you had these agencies. They were developed, they were going to grow, but the sole purpose of those agencies was so that Israel could exist as a sovereign state. That the United States, back in that time, they would recognize Israel as a nation that that the Jewish settlers, they deserve their own state, yada yada yada. But of course, we do find out that that wasn't necessarily the case. That they were, in fact, seizing territory over a land that was previously occupied by the Palestinians.
Yeah.
So moving forward with that. Sorry. So moving forward with that, then you have how the NSA and CIA are, they're expanding their projects, albeit surveillance, communications, and whatnot. And one of the biggest booms for them was technology. Technology was growing, advancing. From things like the ARPANET to the internet to communications. So the computer science, that was growing. Computer, the NSA, the CIA, they saw these talented cyberpunks, of which maybe some of these cyberpunks were also tied to the NSA and the CIA. I'm not saying all of them, but for those that were. And basically the notion was that, okay, how can we not only advance our technology, but how can we also strengthen Israel? Do we like provide Israel with besides bombs and weapons? Why don't we provide Israel with our technology so that over the decades, as Israel grows, they can become a modern form of what the United States describes as democracy. Of course, as you know, Israel is not a democracy. They say they're a democracy, but they're not a democracy. They're like a totalitarian, like almost like fascist regime, the G word, if you will. So then, in the Substack article I wrote, I at least talked about at least 5 different cyberpunks, and I explained how their mindsets. Not only was it very like akin to like how the U.S. is insistent on expanding its U.S. imperialism through technology, through propaganda, but how naive these cyberpunks were. Naive in which they did not foresee their technology being used. They didn't see how their technology would be used in very, very nefarious affairs. Like you know how like by the time we have computers and internet, also, we also heard about, oh, there's hackers, oh, there's antivirus programs. I mean, all these like developments, all these like, how like the United States goes from pure cash to then going about, all right, let's see if we can implement credit, the purpose of credit, your plastic card. Well, cyberpunks were also part of that movement. I mean, they were part of what influenced, which are credit cards and such. And as far as I'm aware, I know of at least 2. There was like 2, like one cyberpunk. The name's it's not coming to my head, but I do mention him in the article. He's considered like a forefather of the cyberpunk movement. He once described how Israel is, leagues ahead of the whole blockchain movement. He went to this Israeli, blockchain conference. He just talked about how great it is for Israel to be exploring blockchain technology. And yet, he never once mentions, he doesn't say anything about Gaza. He doesn't say anything about U.S. war crimes. And, you kind of have to wonder, why is that, How is it that the forefather of cyberpunks doesn't even know or is oblivious to all of Israel's, G? So it's sort of like, it kind of feels like they know exactly what they know what the United States and they know what Israel's all about. They know that they're not, look, the cyberpunks, they're there to like stay relevant. They want to stay relevant. They if they have any knowledge left that they can pass on to the newest generations of crypto, of Bitcoin. I mean, look, it's a technology. It's great, but it could be very harmful, dangerous if misused. I mean, we're seeing that with AI, Web3, potentially the robots, your smart cities and all that. Everything that's like, everything that's going from fiat to digital. And then, another cyberpunk, real briefly, Israeli as well. I read about this other Israeli cyberpunk because I found it very ironic how, despite having privilege as an Israeli, at least twice, he was prevented from attending 2 related conferences related to blockchain, related to crypto, to technology. So for some reason, the United States could not find this cyberpunk's passport or like his visa, even though this Israeli cyberpunk had applied for visa, So I point out also the irony how the irony of how, like how even the United States, which is mostly, your Christian Zionists, how even they are also exploiting, very talented, very like brilliant minds of computer scientists, such as people from Israel. And it is funny how like you don't hear someone as hated as say like Bibi Netanyahu talk about crypto or Bitcoin. But that's the point. You're not supposed to hear that from someone like him.
Sure.
That's not his role. Bibi's role is to make sure that the US and Israel remain partners indefinitely. Bibi's role is to see that Gaza is flattened, stomped to the ground, if you will.
Sadly, it did a good
so
job.
that future settlers, which I do feel like whether it'll be BlackRock or smart cities or even crypto outlets, will then want to expand their own interests, their own projects into what was once known as Palestine. So the other thing about the whole Bitcoin Zionist, the Zionist Bitcoin, the whole thing. So I find it very fascinating how, and there is record of this. I find it fascinating how like many politicians, such as Senator Cynthia Lummis, she has been screaming about Bitcoin for years.
Yeah.
But what many people in the community don't bring up about Lummis is that Lummis is a warmonger. She is heavily, heavily pro-Israel. She was among the many politicians who opposed the nuclear Iran deal. So, people's favorite politicians who happen to be pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto, they're also very much, your warmongers. They're the individuals who want to build business ties with both the U.S. and Israel. And, it kind of makes you wonder, well, was Bitcoin ever intended to be completely independent of nations? Was Bitcoin ever truly decentralized? As to this day, many, Bitcoin crypto outlets scream that, oh yeah, it's decentralized, that we're gonna be free from the bank, that crypto is freedom, Bitcoin is hope, as Natalie Brunell puts it. But no, I mean, all these individuals, they're lying to you. They're gaslighting their viewers to conform, to follow, the new agendas of these elitists, of whom they are heavily, heavily supportive of Israel. They are heavily, heavily supportive of Ukraine, that whole proxy war right there. I even mentioned how, Michael Saylor, even though he has never upfront talked about Israel or geopolitics, Saylor has, at least in my opinion, hinted on his positions on the world. I have no doubt he is Zionist to some degree. Who in their minds would think that, quote, Bitcoin is good for chaos? Who in their minds would think that that is a genuine sounding statement? It's not. It sounds like something an extremist would say. I also pointed out how like someone like Saylor has had dates, if you will. He went on a couple of dates, if you will, with two different females, two different ladies who, on one hand, yes, they've talked about we need Bitcoin, we need a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But on the other hand, they've also talked about, we support Israel. And so, the more and more I'm hearing all these politicians and at least talk about both Bitcoin and Zionism, even if it's not like together, because they talk separately about it. I have no doubt on my mind, Zach, that they are interconnected,
Hmm.
and that if, let's say, for example, if the price of Bitcoin drops because of, let's say, I don't know, Donald Trump's recent tariffs, or let's say, for example, Iran having attacked an Israeli base or something, then oh, look at that, Bitcoin is suddenly reacting to it. Crypto, the values is dropping. I don't think it's any coincidence. I think that some of its biggest, earliest investors, its whales, its billionaires, they are supportive of Zionism. They're supportive of extremism.
Hmm.
Um, I've written Substack articles a few times about the the guy in El Salvador, Max Kaiser, and his wife Stacy Herbert. So yeah, real briefly, those two, they used to be former RT contributors. But little did you know that Max Kaiser and Herbert also, they stem from Wall Street. Max Kaiser used to, launch the Hollywood Stock Exchange. So he's a pretty much a businessman.
Sure.
Uh, and no matter how insolent or whatever nonsense Kaiser says about Bitcoin and all this and that, make no mistake that what Kaiser's role in El Salvador is, in the long run, to appease not only his own wealth, but to appease U.S. imperialism, Zionists. Um, the bare fact that you never hear Max Kaiser or his wife they never point out how the El Salvadorian president Nayib Bukele,
Yeah.
I may pronounce it wrong. Despite Bukele being is a Salvadorian, he's also Palestinian, and is ironic because as a Palestinian, he is making business ties with the U.S., with Israel.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you may have seen this recently on the news, how Marco Rubio has met up with Bukele, and they are talking about expanding its prison system down in El Salvador, and the potential that we could send U.S. criminals down to El Salvador for prison labor.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just insane.
Fascinating.
It's like Guantanamo Bay 2.0.
Hmm.
And all the time on social media, you hear so many like, "Oh, Salvador is beautiful. Oh, Bukalik, he's the best of the best." You hear so much like hyperbole
He saved
of
the
this one guy. Yeah, he got rid of gangs. He got rid of drug lords, and I hear that loud and clearly. Great, but you traded one enemy for what I think is an even greater enemy, like an even worse enemy, which is increased police surveillance. You have financial interest from billionaires, the West, who definitely want to, use El Salvador's resources, albeit geothermal mining,
Mhm.
to, make more Bitcoin. They're indoctrinating, adults and children to study Bitcoin. And what the sad thing about it is that I feel like Salvadorans right now, for those who are very skeptical about the direction that the president has taken them, I am concerned in the long run that they could be targeted, they could be censored. They probably can't push back on the whole Bitcoin narrative,
Mm.
especially when Bukele is still working very closely with the U.S. with Marco Rubio. Who, by the way, Marco Rubio has also pledged his hand to someone like Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader of Venezuela.
Oh, that's right. Huh.
And funny enough, Machado has also supported the need for Bitcoin.
No way. I mean, I was just thinking.
So, do you see how?
Yeah, that's curious.
Do you see how like they're like interconnected? They're not so separate. They seem to be interconnected. I mean, just put the two together. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
See, something that this brings to mind for me is there's a conservative or right-leaning economist I follow named Martin Armstrong, and he has been critical of Bitcoin many times, not for the same reasons that you're being critical of it, but for example, he focuses more on the impossibility of actually using it as a currency for day-to-day transactions. And one point that he made on his blog in the past few months is that because of the fixed supply of 21 million, it's never going to be able to expand or contract. The money supply won't. And that makes it very, very difficult in his argument, makes it difficult for it to be used as a currency because a currency should be able to expand and contract its money supply according to population dynamics. And so that makes me think about Malthusianism and attempts to control the population. Like for the former Georgia Guidestones before they were destroyed had, I believe it was 200 million was the prescribed upper limit on the human population on those Georgia Guidestones. And that, just makes me think about what the long-term plans might be for the introduction of cryptocurrencies. You gestured to that a few moments ago when you talked about the increased surveillance in El Salvador under Bukele. I'm wondering, help me tie this more together. Like, could you give me your vision of how society, American society in this case, how it will change if, for example, Cynthia Lummis's strategic Bitcoin reserve bill gets passed? If, as seems likely, private banks begin holding more digital assets after Trump's executive order. If you wouldn't mind laying this out for me, I'm curious what your vision of the future might be if we don't stop this.
Absolutely. So it would definitely be like a dystopian plutocracy type of society where only the very few control not only the wealth, but your very well-being of what you can say, what can you think, what can you push back on, and what can't you push back on. I mean, I think this is already happening far sooner than we perceive. So with like the whole introduction of AI, with drones becoming ever more present, with cryptocurrency, no doubt, being heavily regurgitated, where all the elites are following the same script. Hardly anybody is like deviating from that script. There's no doubt in my mind that they are pushing for they're trying to normalize crypto to be like your everyday thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that, if your money, if your cash inflow, if you will, goes up and down, it's normal. It's nothing to worry about. You'll be fine. But I just feel like, it's going to add more and more stress. It's going to add more and more anxiety, especially to people, to communities who don't have enough wealth, who are maybe on the brinks of, financial collapse. I mean, an example I could think of was the whole recent Palisade fire that happened last month,
Mm-hmm.
where, so many homes, so many, so much destruction, just gone, due to the irresponsibility of the Los Angeles County, whether it be from let's say its mayor, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and what I've particularly argued about is maybe that one particular mayor in Santa Monica, Lana Lagrate, who seems to be more like fixated with, pushing, like prioritizing like education for Bitcoin rather than like, I don't know, proper infrastructure, or how about like a proper fire budget, so that, should these fires ever happen again, that the city, the county, they would be more than equipped to handle these fires. They would have the proper fire gear. They would have enough water reserved and such, instead of concentrating all their efforts on, I don't know, people's pockets, or a Ponzi scheme that has become that far out of control. I mean, we got to get rid of corruption. I have no doubt that, corruption will continue to ensue. Money laundering, crime is becoming, essentially, it feels like crime is becoming legalized. So yeah, not to sound like not to sound too much like a Whitney Webb downer, but and by the way, shout outs to Whitney Webb. I just want to emphasize that, look, as more and more people pay notice, they see the subtle yet dynamic changes to their society, where you're seeing the rise of crypto propaganda, technology propaganda, what is it? Smart cities propaganda, that, or how about the latest, the whole deportation propaganda of Donald Trump, deporting, all the immigrants, some of whom, okay, yeah, sure, some of them are illegal, but there's a good chance that some of them are legal, and yet we're deporting them. So if none of this gets stopped, yeah, we're definitely in for a very like hard time, where the older generations, like your boomers, your what is it? Is it millennials? I think. What's after boomers?
Gen X and then millennials.
Thank you. Yes. So your Gen X, and to some degree your millennials, they're going to be repeating the same mistakes that boomers made, and which is going to then leave future generations even more screwed, even more like financially crippled. I mean, as Charles Schwab put it, we still would be happy and you will own nothing, or something like that.
Yeah.
So look, I would encourage, people, whether it is, reach out to your city council, share on social media like Substack, heck, even on Twitter, but just know that, there are people out there like myself who are continuing to see the daily rise of this insane money laundering propaganda, and until it's stopped, no one's money is truly safe. Even if you have money in a said cold storage wallet, there's no telling if there's ever a point where the government could confront cold wallet manufacturers, and then those manufacturers are forced to disclose its blueprint as to how their devices work, which then could then make its way to where the federal government could then crack down and essentially steal your crypto, your Bitcoin, your so-called hard-earned money.
I could see that happening. So, it's like
we need to point that out.
It's like under FDR, they demanded all the gold, right? So it's something it's pretty easy to imagine the government doing if its budget is strapped.
That's right. That is absolutely right. And even if, let's say, for example, the Trump administration or the politicians like Loomis, they do pass this Bitcoin strategic reserve and these tax cuts for the rich, for crypto owners, we have to know that they're ultimately doing it for themselves. This isn't really about the American people, and they need to be held accountable. not just for their crimes against Israel, Syria, Lebanon, but also its crimes here, right here in the United States. Where places like East Palestine, Flint, Los Angeles, Lahaina, Hawaii, they are not being looked after. They are just being discarded. I mean, like even right now, like if there is any movement, if I hear anything, I definitely like to look into if there going to be any attempt among communities of Los Angeles to push back the upcoming 2028 Olympics, because right now we can't be thinking about Olympics. We can't be thinking about sports, which is already orchestrated by a handful of elites. It's a distraction point. It's a distraction. Of course, no ill will to any of the Olympic athletes. I think they're great people. I think they're great, at what they're doing. But, right now we need to fix our country really badly,
Yeah.
We need to prioritize not a money laundering scheme. We need to prioritize, a livable wage, reparations, universal health care, proper infrastructure. We need to end all these senseless wars and coups. And most certainly, we definitely need to get rid of all the dark money that is influencing our current government, whether it's APAC, Wall Street, the crypto industry, and such.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. And thank you for getting the word out about this. Just doing my own part, but that's only by amplifying such knowledgeable voices as yourself.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. And so before we wrap this up, I'm just wondering if there's anything you want to shout out. Like I will certainly have a link to Golden Monarch News in the show notes. Is there anything else in particular that you'd like to bring our attention to?
Absolutely. Shout out to you, Zach, Radio Free Pizza.
Aww.
Shout out to Indy, Reeve, Colin from the INN network, and most definitely shout out to Substack users who stay, who are here, here to inform everyone of the dangers that are out there, but also who want to spread truth, push back on all these insane propagandas that are being fueled by our world leaders.
100%.
And most of all, shout out to you, whoever is watching right now. Shout out to you, the user.
Yeah, thank you, viewers. Pat yourselves on the back. All right. Well, I guess that's it for this time, but I look forward to having you back again soon to talk about more, that is, about the way things end up going with 2025 and Trump's crypto presidency.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me, Zach.
Of course. Thank you, Golden Monarch.